Hello everyone, welcome to Low Rent Rick Scale Modelling, and this is my build of the Revell 172 scale P47-M Thunderbolt Devastatin Deb. Before we get going, please do consider subscribing to my small channel. It's completely free, it costs you nothing, but it really helps my channel out quite a lot. So please do hit that subscribe button. If you've got any comments, leave a comment on the video. That really helps the algorithm throw the video out to more people. So let's get on with it. This model was picked out by my partner because she liked the look of it, and it's quite an attractive model, and to be fair, so's this kit. The sprues are in great condition. It looks like a good quality kit. Good instructions. I've never liked the paint instructions on Revell kits, but that's just a personal choice. It comes with two different paint schemes and decal sets, and obviously I'm going to choose the Devastatin Deb scheme. To achieve the colour scheme that I want, I'm going to be doing a bit of paint mixing. The underside's going to be done with this silver, which is a sort of a particulate paint, and then I'm going to be mixing that with some of the blue to make a sort of lilac background colour. No idea how it's going to work out because at this stage I'm very new to paint mixing. When you're using these metallic paints, the same rules apply. Lots of thin coats is better than a thick one, but the tendency is to have a look at it and think this isn't going on well at all, but bear with it. Even though it looks washy, the thin coat will dry down and tighten down really well, and then you layer it up and you'll get a really good finish. So don't worry about the way it looks when you put the first coat on. So here we go, making the colour mix. I would suggest, if you're going to do a colour mix for yourself, make sure you do enough of the same tone or shade to complete your whole model, but I'm in the experimental mode here, so I'm going to be playing with the colour until I think I've got it right. I can always adjust it up later, but if you're doing it yourself, I would suggest making sure you mix up enough. When you do use a metallic base coat and mix it in with the colour to give it some pigment, you get a really sort of a paint, like a paint flecked effect. It's really nice. So I've got the shade just where I want it, sort of a lilac background there, and the dark blue gloss is going to be going over the top to create that two-tone camouflage pattern. But I'm really pleased with that lilac-y colour. And up close and personal, the camera doesn't quite pick it out, but it's got a real metallic paint effect, which looks great. There's often a debate of whether you should paint your parts on the sprue, because obviously you'll need to tidy some little bits up, but you're going to be putting lots of thin coats down, and I find if I put a coat on the sprue first, it gives me a good visualization of where the model's going to go and what it's going to look like, and as I say, you're going to be putting thin layers over the top anyway, so don't worry too much about the parts that need to be tidied up and the attachment points that need to be filed off. I'm going to be using a method for masking using cigarette papers, and I'll link in the description. I'll put the link to the tutorial video I did about using cigarette papers for masking. They're extremely versatile, really easy, and no danger of taking the paint off underneath. So please do check that video out. If you've got a few problems masking, cigarette papers might be the way to go. Once I've got the masked parts painted up, I really don't like hanging about and waiting for them to dry. So what I did is I knocked up myself a little homemade drying booth. I used an old DVD stand and an old computer fan, and knocked together a little drying booth, which is ideal for drying off these smaller parts that you're waiting for. I'll put a link in the description to my other channel of how I built it. It's very simple to put together, USB powered, and it saves an awful lot of time hanging about waiting for parts to dry. So check out that other video and have a look. Build yourself one, they're really, really useful. Now for this model, what I want to do is I really want to pull out the panel lines and make them really stand out. So I'm going to use a soft pencil to line in the panel lines. Again, I'll link in the description below my tutorial video of how to do panel lines without an airbrush. For the airbrush for this method, it looks really great for a simple, quick method. For those that are just beginning and want to see what the panel line effect looks like, this can be a really good little way to do it. So please do check out that video too if you're interested in getting some accent on the panel lines on your plane. This method is particularly effective on the engine cowling and nose. So I'm putting some chips into the paintwork here using the tip of a round file, and you can already see some of the pencil marks I've made already to simulate a bit of soot or oil, just a nice bit of weathering. And go in with the soft pencil and just colour those lines in and then smudge them out, and the effect is really quite outstanding. Time for the main construction. Like 99% of kits, the fuselage and wings are all assembled around the cockpit. The fit I've noticed at this point is really good on this particular kit. It shouldn't be too much of a problem putting this together. So I've painted the main part with a couple of coats, and it will obviously get a finishing coat at any seams or panel lines, so I'm not too worried about sanding back any outstanding seams and giving the thing a final coat over, because that was always the plan from the start. Some people aren't really into painting on the sprue. I just find it easier to visualize how the model's coming together, especially as I'm experimenting with a paint scheme here, which it's got to be said has come out really well, but they are very thin coats, so it's no problem to give it a bit of a sand back and layer that back up. Once the main fuselage is together, and I must say it's going together really well. I was expecting a lot of panel gaps because of the shape and the design and some experience with Revell kits in the past, but it must be said again, it really fit together well. So now I'm going to go over the top with the enamel. So I've chosen a blue enamel to go over and make the main colour of the plane, which I've heavily thinned down with some white spirit. The final finish will be very glossy on the paint, so I'm going to go over, once I've weathered, I'm going to go over with some Vallejo matte varnish. For the canopy, I want a blue tint, which again is another thing I've never done before. So using the same paint, I'm going to use a white spirit to enamel wash, which I'm going to really water down with the white spirit. So this is going to only have about 5% paint to get that blue tinted colour. Now, tinting on the inside, tinting on the outside. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. But I do know that it'll be quite fragile once it's done if I do it on the outside. So I'm just going to experiment a little bit here and be ready, if it doesn't work, to wash it off with the white spirit. Now that took an extremely long time to do. I had to speed up the video quite a lot there, but I'm really happy with the effect, especially as it just came from an idea and not having done before. So the blue tint there looks a little bit heavy for some maybe, but I'm really pleased with the way that it went on. As you can see by the cotton boards, I've had to put it on and bring it off and put it on and bring it off just to get it to the right level for me, but I'm pleased with how it turned out. Now that the enamel is dried and cured off, I'm going to go over again with a soft pencil and start to pick out all the panel lining, using the same method as I did before. The enamel itself is dried with an extremely hard coat, so you can afford to go a little bit heavier until you've got the right level, and then smudge out again just to leave that the slight accent. I'm going to use the same method here to bring back some sort of soot or carbon effect back from the weapon arrays, trailing back across the wing to simulate a bit of that air movement. I've laid down some black just behind the engine cowling, the flared pieces there, to sort of simulate the engine throwing back some oil or some soot or some dirt, just to give it that look like the engine has dirtied up the fuselage a bit. And now I'm just smudging it back with the Q-tip just to give it the illusion of movement through the air. Going to add a very thin watered down coat, although it doesn't look like it. This will thin out quite a lot of Vallejo matte varnish. It comes quite thin anyway, because you can airbrush it on. But what I tend to do is I tend to layer it down like this once it's been watered down, and then do my best while it's still a wet coat to spread it out as much as I can. That'll just protect the weathering that I've done, and it'll mute down the paintwork quite a lot because it's very, very shiny at the moment. A few final bits before decals, so the canopy, undercarriage, and a few last little bits to paint up. Decals with the kit are good quality, no real problems with them at all. There's some quite fiddly bits. There are some hatches on the fuselage which require the decal to go sort of in two pieces. So on the outside of the fuselage and one part that's looks like it's painted inside the hatch. But I'm anticipating no real problems with them. The decals are good. They look quite strong. There are some nice small ones that go onto the propeller too. But I'm anticipating no problems with these. I've never really had a problem with Revell decals. Please let me know in the comments if you've experienced something different, possibly with the older kits. Final once over with the Vallejo matte varnish, watered down 50/50, just to keep everything in place and tighten up the surface a bit and stop my fingers smudging it. I've really enjoyed the build. Well, let's see, have a look, see what it looks like when it's completed. And there we go, there she is complete. Not bad for a beginner, is my opinion of it. This was only about the 4th or 5th model I've done. I really enjoyed doing it. If you've stayed right the way till the end, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for supporting my channel. It really means a lot. Please do consider giving me a subscribe, or liking or commenting on the video. It really helps me out as a small growing channel. Thank you so much. Please check out our Facebook group, Scale Modelling for Everyone. We'd love to see you there. We're about 160 members so far after starting a couple of months ago. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.